Welcome back to Everyday Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Everyday Movie Ever, and we found a movie. And by we found a movie, I mean Max found a movie yet again. It's the third day in a row, people. What's up?
Hey.
Today we're going to be talking about Trail of Danger. Max, did you want to talk about how you found this one?
So, yeah, I ended up getting a copy of this from the same person who sent me Track of the African Bongo. But the funny thing is, he beat someone else to the punch. This was another one that I was looking for a while, and then all of a sudden there was like two people that were going to send it to me, and it was like a race. Now, the other person who had a copy, she actually got it directly from Disney because her brother was in the film. He died in combat in Iraq, unfortunately, and they wanted to have a copy of the movie, to preserve his memory. He was in it as a little kid. He's towards the end where they go into the town. That was like an actual town that they filmed, and it wasn't a set. You can kind of tell in the movie. And he was then a little kid at that time. And she mentioned to me that they have set up a scholarship at his alma mater, the College of Southern Idaho. So it's the Major Allen Rowe Scholarship. You can donate on their website or send them a check or whatever. Any donation is appreciated. It goes to a scholarship for someone who's having a hard time affording their education. And the information for all that will be in the info of this video.
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
That's our little bit of charity for the day, I guess.
Yeah, but also it's like, again, circles back. I know I mentioned it in probably both of the last two, but the community of people who collect and watch old Disney movies, they're like in it together. They're in it together, like, because you never know the reason someone has a copy of the movie. Yeah. You've contacted filmmakers, you've contacted people. I've had people contact me because their dad was in Track of the Giant Snow Bear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so amazing.
So another funny thing about contacting people is, as I've mentioned before, I have emailed like stunt people, like, producers, directors, actors, and more often than not, they say they don't have it, but they'd love to have a copy, and then I find it and I send it to them.
I know, I love that.
The star of this, Larry Wilcox, was one of those people who emailed me back very quickly and said that he didn't have this, and then I ended up finding it and sending it to him. And he actually shared a bit of trivia with me. He said that when he was filming it, the script and everything didn't say Trail of Danger. It was called Open Winter. So,
that's the name of the original story.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a little bit of trivia.
That's so fun, though. I love that.
Yeah.
So for Trail of Danger, the film came out in 1978. The original air date of the original video, which will be linked in the description, was July 13th, 2018. And I did cover quite a bit in that video, but we did not have cinematographer or writer. Cinematographer is Duke Callaghan. The writer is Clements Jr., based off of a story called Open Winter by H.L. Davis. I don't actually have a ton of notes for this, because I think this was the more of the three, because I watched all three in one day. And of the three, this one was the most like narrative encapsulating to me. Like, I was entertained by this one the most. I was in this one the most, which was surprising. I thought it would have been Carnival Caper, but it ended up being this one.
I also had very few notes, and it sounds like maybe I was less entertained by this than you. Okay. And I've watched this twice, by the way.
Yeah.
But I just felt it was very simple. It was very straightforward. The themes were consistent throughout, which was nice. But yeah, I just didn't write a whole bunch about this. It was mostly just me just watching it play out. You know?
Yeah, I have like, it's always interesting because I can tell I don't have like huge opinions on the plot when I just write what has happened. So like,
Yes.
I literally wrote, Beach and Pop are tasked with moving 22 horses across rough terrain, elements, sheep herders, thieves, supposed to only have been 2 weeks, but it ends up being like 4.
Yeah, what an opening. Like, what a great way to instantly get sympathy for someone. It's like, I'm doing this job I don't entirely want to do. It's supposed to be 2 weeks, and it's 3 weeks, and I'm not getting paid any extra. And then I show up, and it turns out like, oh, it was all for nothing. Like,
Yeah. And then the lessons felt very like, hard work is worth doing, keep your promises, stay humble, like all that kind of stuff felt like the lessons for me. And like, the whole, remind yourself what is actually important and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many of these Disney movies, and even just movies in general, where like I roll my eyes so much, where it's like, oh really, hard work pays off, oh really, like you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps and whatever. But like, I felt like, even though it was like so many of those, like the messages like in theory here were like so old-fashioned and so like antiquated, like it felt genuine, it felt sympathetic, it didn't feel like toxic masculinity or Ayn Rand or any of those things. It was like one of the first things that they say is, and I wrote this quote down because I loved it, sure makes you feel real good knowing you did everything you could. And they demonstrate that. And also the older guy there, I forgot his character's name already, even though
I think he just calls him Pop.
Okay, so let's call him Pop. Like, even Pop, just like it, like he's not like laying down a guilt trip and being like, back in my day or anything. He's just like, oh, it'd be nice if you did this. And he's like, and he even says like, I won't blame you if you don't go through with this. Like, there's not much incentive here. And like, when he's like let down, he's like, oh geez, I really thought he'd go through with that,
Mm-hmm.
It's just nice. Like, it's just very sympathetic, like, and it's not like, again, it doesn't beat you over the head with it, but still the themes are there consistently throughout. And I guess like I could probably demonstrate this idea best by like saying counterexamples of like movies that do it worse, but we could be here all day comparing it to other movies.
Recently, The Tenderfoot, they have a whole similar section where they're like moving horses or whatever.
Yeah. And
that movie was atrociously bad. So
yeah. And I mean, even when we first meet like the bad guys, like they like have a very good point of like, hey, we if you just let these horses out, they will ruin the crops and whatnot, and let us deal with this. And like, you really are sort of like sympathetic to them, and for like the main character, like how torn he is.
Yeah.
And then they make like one like veiled threat, and he's immediately like, okay, drop your guns. Like, he's not having it.
Yeah. That whole scene was crazy. Because he doesn't have any more bullets in his gun, so he's literally fake threatening them. So crazy. But I would agree, there's something about this, I think, that for me, obviously you have mentioned that you weren't as entertained by it, but I think something about the simplicity of it with the genuineness, I think, because there have been movies that are very simple and do very simple plots like this, but it just falls flat. This one, for some reason, did not fall flat to me. I was so invested in Grandma, and I knew she was gonna die, and I was heartbroken when she died, and I was like, why do I care about this horse so much?
Can we just say that Pop does everything he can to make us feel better about Grandma dying? He bombards us. He's like, oh, well, she didn't suffer that much, and she lived really old, and she was probably going to die a worse death if she didn't die this way, and I hope I die the way Grandma dies someday. Like,
Yes.
he did everything he could, just like boom, 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 like a PowerPoint presentation of like,
Yeah.
don't feel too bad about the dead horse, kids.
But also, like, she, like, fought off a freaking mountain lion so the other horse could have a baby. Like, that's crazy.
We got like a Lion King circle of life moment.
We did. And I thought it was so funny that they were like, we said we were going to deliver 22 horses, but it might be 23. And then, of course, Grandma dies, so they deliver 22 horses. And it's like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
So they did what they said they were going to do. This takes place in 1933. Right away at the beginning, it shows that it's 1933. So I don't know why, but because it was so cowboy-y until the very end, I was like, oh, I forgot it was 1933 when they get to the town.
The same thing happened to me, and like that happens with some Western stuff. You're like, oh, like it was so long ago, and it's like, no, these people are just out in the sticks. Like,
yeah,
there were cars, there was electricity, there was lots of stuff, but like there's still the wilderness somewhere, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I enjoyed this actually. I thought it was very decent compared to some other movies like this at the time. I feel like this shines just a little bit brighter. It had the human element that others try for but don't quite get.
I felt like more so than a lot of these movies that like in the credits it says it's based on a book. You could feel this was based on a book just to how nuanced and how well thought out it was. I think its biggest weakness was just like the, you know, the act structure or the plot or whatever. Like sometimes it was just like a lot of like whatever and just like walking along. And like it looked nice for the most part, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the whole struggle with the bad guys, it wasn't that much of a conflict. It wasn't like consistent throughout, you know.
Yep. I feel like the most like climactic moment is the river.
Yeah.
With like the almost drowning and trying to get the horses across in time, and you know, and then soon after that you're like, okay, like we made it through, and then the thieves come and try to steal the horses. And you're like, who are these people? And then they're gone in the same amount of time it took them to arrive. Like, it's such a short moment.
Oh, I really liked, speaking of the contrast between like civilization at the end and everything, they really did a good job of showing like the people like washing off like the grass off their lawn and like the hose, and them just being like, my God, like, can you imagine, you know, like having this out in the like on the trail? This would have made all the difference. And these people are just like wasting this grass, like washing it off their lawn. But yeah, just so interesting. And just like
I really loved that sequence because it really was like telling him not to take all of the stuff for granted and like all that kind of stuff, because these people were like using water like it was nothing and they were struggling for water, or the kids that ran up and got the free ice, or you know, stuff like that. I was like, ooh, that's good, that's effective.
I have never spent weeks at a time out in the wilderness, but I have spent a week out in a national park, and I will say, even just that, when I got back, I was like, my television, you know.
Totally. I'm not a big camper because I don't like bugs, because I get eaten alive by every kind of bug there is, so I can't say I have spent a week in the wilderness. I've been in an RV.
You just got to use environmental friendly bug spray and apply evenly at sunset.
Sure.
Or just stop being so delicious.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I still have marks from bug bites I got in February in Costa Rica.
What kind of bugs they got there?
I don't know.
Is that going to be in the vlog? The guide of...
No, not the bug bites. I love that we've had like similar amount of notes. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
I always feel really bad when I have like no notes and my guest has like 1,000. I love that, but I feel bad that I don't have like more, you know?
Yeah, no, and you know, you kind of have the excuse of you watched 3 in one day and this is the third one. I spaced them out on different days. I just watched this like in
But
its own day,
I don't
and
think
I still
that's-
had very few notes. So
I think that's like a product of the film. Like, you know, some films you're gonna have a lot to say, and some films are gonna be like, hey, you know what? It was fine. I got nothing to complain about, really. I got nothing that I was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. It's I have a couple notes, and that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. What would you give it?
I think this discussion talked me up of my letterbox rating, so don't call me a liar if anyone goes and checks it. But I guess I'm gonna be unoriginal. 6 horses out of 10.
Oh my god, I gave it 5. 5 horses out of 10. But
Oh,
keep in mind, this is an average of a lot of individual ratings.
yeah, okay.
So, like, you know, it's the same as what I gave Carnival Caper, but enjoyment and writing have a higher score and stuff like that. So it does have 5 horses out of 10 for me. This was originally number 182. So here we are, 1978, number 182. And everybody go follow Max, okay? Seriously. And be sure to check out the scholarship fund in the description. And this did not change the parent death toll or the cry count. Yet again, I came close for Grandma, though. I had big feelings for her.
We don't know if she's actually a grandma, so, you know.
They didn't because she was old.
Yeah, but we don't know if, you know, she ever, you know, had offspring.
Yeah, she ever full. Yeah, she ever had a full.
Yeah.
Join Patreon. Buy merch. Free shipping.
Are you sure about that?
100. I am sure.
You looked
Until next
uncertain.
time. I looked uncertain.
Yeah.
Oh. Buy merch and join Patreon. Okay, until next time, everybody, comment, like, subscribe, but I'm not in charge of your life. You are, so you do you, and don't be... I mean, I'd say the sheep herders about it, because they're kind of jerks, but I get where they were coming from. So maybe the thieves about it.
It's got to be the thieves. They're the
Yeah.
villains, yeah.
They're the villains, even though they were there for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Thanks, Max, for being in all 3 of these videos right away. I love that.